Halloween night is full of spooky fun. We see ghosts, goblins, monsters. They peek out from behind trees, hide in dark corners. The air feels a little colder. The wind whispers secrets through the rustling leaves. It is a time when the world feels mysterious and full of magic. We tell ghost stories, watch scary movies, enjoying the thrill of a good fright. This special night has a long and fascinating history, a story that stretches back thousands of years. It's a time when we imagine that the veil between our world and the spirit world is at its thinnest. Among all the spooky figures of Halloween, one stands out. It is the witch. We see her everywhere during this season. She stirs a bubbling cauldron, flies across the moon on a broomstick. She cackles with a mischievous grin, her pointed hat, her long dark cloak, as familiar as the jack-o'-lantern's glowing smile. Witches have become the unofficial mascots of Halloween, representing the holiday's blend of magic, mischief, and mystery. They are figures of immense power and intrigue, at once scary and fascinating. Their story is deeply woven into the very fabric of Halloween itself, connecting us to ancient fears and celebrations. But have you ever wondered why? Why are witches so tied to this one particular night of the year? The answer is a long and winding story that takes us back in time. It is a tale filled with ancient festivals, deep-seated beliefs, a changing world. The witch we see today is very different from the witches people once believed in. To understand the Halloween witch, we have to travel back to a time when magic was believed to be real, and the spirits of the dead were thought to walk the earth. This journey will uncover the shocking truth behind one of Halloween's most iconic figures. Long before Halloween was about candy and costumes, ancient people held deep beliefs about magic. They saw the world as a place filled with unseen forces, powerful spirits, the changing of the seasons, the success of a harvest, the outbreak of a sickness. People believed these things were controlled by gods, goddesses, nature spirits. To navigate this magical world, they relied on people who seemed to have a special connection to these forces. These individuals were known by many names: healers, seers, shamans, cunning folk. They knew the secrets of herbs, could predict the future, offered protection from evil spirits. These early magic users were often respected and essential members of their communities. If a cow fell ill, you might ask the local wise woman for a charm to heal it. If you were worried about the upcoming winter, a seer might read the omens to tell you what to expect. This belief in practical magic was a part of everyday life. The line between the natural and the supernatural was pretty blurry. People believed that spells, potions, rituals could genuinely influence the world around them. This was not considered evil or dark, it was simply how the world worked, a way of maintaining balance. The idea of a witch as we know it began to form much later. As new religions spread across Europe, the old ways and beliefs were often demonized. The powerful nature spirits of the past were sometimes recast as evil demons. The village healer, once a source of comfort and aid, started to be viewed with suspicion. Her knowledge of herbs and charms was no longer seen as helpful, but as evidence of a pact with dark forces. The word witch began to take on a sinister meaning, associated with someone who used magic for harmful purposes. Curse crops, sicken livestock, bring misfortune to their neighbors. This transformation was slow but steady, happening over many centuries. Stories and folklore began to paint a picture of witches as secretive and malevolent figures, creating a foundation of fear that would later erupt. The connection between witches and Halloween begins with an ancient Celtic festival called Samhain, pronounced Sach-Win. This festival, held around November 1st, marked the end of the harvest season, and the beginning of winter, a time of darkness and cold. The Celts believed that on the night of Samhain, the boundary between the world of the living and the world of the spirits became incredibly thin. This meant that ghosts, fairies, other supernatural beings could cross over and wander the earth. It was a time of great magical power, but also a time of great uncertainty and danger for ordinary people. During Samhain, people took precautions. They would light huge bonfires on hilltops to light up the night and ward off evil entities. Some people wore costumes and masks, not for fun but as a disguise. It was thought that if you looked like a spirit yourself, the real spirits would leave you alone. It was also a time for divination, predicting the future. Because the veil to the other world was so thin, it was considered the best time of year to ask questions about the coming months, such as who you might marry or whether you would survive the long winter. As Christianity spread, it incorporated many of the old pagan traditions. The Church established All Saints' Day on November 1st, All Souls' Day on November 2nd. The evening before All Saints' Day became known as All Hallows' Eve. which was later shortened to Halloween. While the purpose of the holiday changed to honoring saints and praying for the dead, many of the old Samhain customs remained. The bonfires, the belief in wandering spirits, the focus on divination and fortune-telling, all carried over into the new Christian holiday, keeping the night's supernatural reputation alive and well. It was within this magical, spirit-filled atmosphere of All Hallows' Eve that the witch found her home. As fear of witchcraft grew, people began to imagine that witches would take advantage of this special night. Since the veil between worlds was thin and magical energies were high, it seemed like the perfect time for witches to gather, cast their most powerful spells, and cause mischief. They were seen as the human agents of the supernatural chaos that filled the night, flying through the sky to their secret gatherings. The simmering fear of witches boiled over into a terrifying period known as the witch hunts. From the 1400s to the 1700s, a wave of panic swept across Europe and later the American colonies. Tens of thousands of people, mostly women, were accused of witchcraft. They were blamed for everything that went wrong in a community: failed crops, sudden illnesses, storms, the death of a child. One infamous example: the Salem witch trials of 1692 in Massachusetts. A few young girls began having strange fits and accused local women of bewitching them. Accusations spiraled into mass hysteria. More than 200 were accused, 19 were hanged. Giles Corey was pressed to death with heavy stones for refusing to enter a plea. These events show how deeply people believed in witches and how fear turned neighbors into enemies with deadly consequences. Many strange superstitions grew up around witches. It was believed a witch couldn't recite the Lord's Prayer without stumbling. People searched for a witch's or devil's mark on the body, an unusual mole or birthmark where a familiar supposedly suckled. Another test: swimming a witch. The accused tied up and thrown into water. Because water was sacred, it was thought it would reject a witch, making her float. If she sank, likely drowning, she was considered innocent. These beliefs created constant suspicion. An old woman living alone with a cat might be accused. A healer using herbal remedies could be targeted. Anyone different or unpopular was at risk. The witch became imagined as a secret, malevolent enemy among the community. This chapter cemented the witch as a figure of ultimate evil, a human embodiment of the devil's work on earth. Ironically, that fearful image became the basis for the spooky Halloween character we know today. After the terror of the witch trials faded, the witch did not disappear. She began a slow transformation in stories and art. She moved from the courtroom into the pages of folklore and into fairy tales. Think of the witch in Hansel and Gretel, who lives in a gingerbread house to lure children, or the evil queen in Snow White, who uses a poisoned apple. In these stories, the witch was still a villain, but she was becoming more fantastical and less immediate. She was a character in a story, meant to teach a lesson or provide a thrilling scare. Rather than a neighbor you might actually accuse of cursing your cow. This transition was helped along by writers and artists in the 18th and 19th centuries. They were fascinated by the Gothic and the supernatural. Poems like Robert Burns's Tam O'Shanter described a wild witch's dance. Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow didn't feature a witch directly, but its atmosphere of superstition and supernatural dread connected American folklore with spooky themes. The witch was slowly being defanged, turning from a real-world threat into a powerful symbol of the mysterious and the macabre. The witch's image also started to become standardized. The classic look: a pointed hat, a black robe, a warty nose, and a broomstick. The pointed hat, for example, might have been inspired by a type of hat worn by certain marginalized groups which artists then exaggerated. The broom became her mode of transportation, an idea that may have come from old pagan rituals involving dancing with poles or besoms. This consistent visual made the witch instantly recognizable as a spooky character, perfect for illustrations and, eventually, for costumes. By the early 20th century, the transformation was nearly complete. Decorations, postcards, party themes. Companies found that the witch was a popular and versatile character. The most famous pop culture witch of all, the Wicked Witch of the West from the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz, cemented this new role. She was terrifying, yes, but she was also a magnificent fantasy villain, far removed from the poor souls accused in Salem. Today, the witch's journey has come full circle. The terrifying figure from the witch trials has been almost completely replaced by a character celebrated for fun and fantasy. On Halloween night, streets are filled with children dressed as witches, not with scary warty noses but often with sparkly hats and colorful capes. They carry plastic cauldrons, not for brewing evil potions, but for collecting candy. The witch costume is one of the most popular Halloween choices year after year, allowing people of all ages to step into a role of magic and power, even if just for one evening. The fear has been replaced by a sense of empowerment and playfulness. The witch in modern media reflects this change as well. Scary witches still appear in horror movies. Many beloved fictional witches are now heroes. Hermione Granger, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. They use their magic for good, solving problems, helping their friends. These portrayals have helped reshape public perception. Intelligent, strong, independent. This new positive image makes the witch more appealing, someone to admire rather than fear. There's a resurgence of interest in real-life witchcraft. Wicca, paganism. Followers revere nature, celebrate seasonal changes, and practice magic for positive purposes. Healing, protection, personal growth. For them, Halloween, or Samhain, is deeply spiritual, to honor ancestors and reflect on life and death cycles. This movement reclaims witch from its dark past, redefining it as spiritual strength and connection to nature. A witch on Halloween shows a shocking, complex history. She represents ancient beliefs in magic, tragic history of persecution, and the power of stories to turn fear into fun. From feared outcast to beloved holiday icon to symbol of modern spirituality, the witch has been on an incredible journey. Her presence on Halloween night reminds us the darkest parts of history can be reshaped, becoming joy, imagination, and festive celebration for everyone. The witch of today is less about terror and more about enduring magic.